Hi everyone. There's a slight delay on this. This is the first time that we've set up using YouTube, and if I tell you, we had a complete nightmare of a day yesterday. So there's, I don't know, 20-second, possibly a 30-second delay between what you see on the screen, or what I'm saying, and what you see on the screen. We need to play around with all the settings, but that's something we've already learned for next time. So if you've got any questions, I'd like to, let's see who there are. I know there's a few of you watching already, so I can see Pearl's already here from South Africa, so hi Pearl. Please do use the chat on the right hand side, because unlike before where we used the webinar service and I could see everybody that was in the chat room, including you guys that are in on the camera, I can't see who's here, apart from how many are watching, so say hello in the chat on the side, just type something in. You can see it on the right hand side. You'll see my husband's in here as well. He's helping me out, just keeping an eye on things, because like I say, it's quite scary doing the YouTube thing. I don't know, it's sort of just even getting this little display page and everything set up yesterday was a huge learning curve. But if this goes okay today, it means that once I've there's three settings, I think. One's got like quite a low latency, which is like the time delay between me speaking or what you see and what I say here and what you see and hear. But I can have one that's quite a fast delay, so that means for this Q&A session that was supposed to happen, but I don't think it has. But it means that we'll be able to do proper live streams, so I can set up 2 cameras. Hi Anya, from Netherlands, good luck and keep breathing. I shall remember to breathe as I go. Thank you. I am de-stressing. Now we're actually going live, and it's working. I feel much calmer. So, phew. I don't think you realise actually. I mean, I use a lot of technology all the time, but yeah, I do get stressed. So, oh, let me just move the microphone over, just in case I didn't have the microphone across in front of me. So hopefully that will be better for you. Just let me know. Is everyone seeing everything okay? There's no buffering? There's a whole thing about the, I say, because we took so long trying to set it up yesterday, we learned lots of theory about how this works. Basically, it records at this end. Thanks, Pearl. It records at this end at a certain quality. And then depending on what device you guys are using at the other end, YouTube does this whole supposedly technical enhancement thing. So if you're watching on a phone at a certain speed, it adjusts everything for you. So you get to see it at your end at the best, I don't know what they call it, bit rates and all this sort of thing. That's great, Pearl. Thanks for the feedback. That's what this one is mainly about. It's to get this set up, get me over this fear of using YouTube, going live, and now that I've got it all set up and I think I understand it all, because you have to use third-party programs and ingestion settings and all this other stuff. It's not a simple case of just going, here's the camera, let's go. They like to make it a bit complicated, but saying that, it is actually quite easy. It just took us a while to set up. Hello. I think we've got about 9 or 10 of us here watching anyway, which is really nice. I feel like I'm not inundated anyway with people today, but I've got enough, so you've got me to yourselves. I didn't see any questions posted anywhere, so if you've got any questions, here's where you can ask them. If you've got anything going on, anything you want to pick my brains about whilst you've got me here, that's what it is. And then in future, I think what I might do is set a topic. Maybe set a topic, and I'll discuss the topic, and then that will hopefully veer off, and we'll have questions coming in about the topic, anything else people want to know, to personalise it to them. So if anyone's got any topics they want me to discuss today, then we can. Hi, I'm Margaret. You can hear and see and hear me quite well, and you're in Malta. We've got a very international base today, so thank you. I'm a little cold here today in the forest. It's supposed to be summer, but I think we've lost our sun for today. So once I've done this today, I've got for you guys on Patreon, I'm working on a new project for you, which I'm going to tell you guys here today, because you've made this huge effort to come in and say hi and help me out with this live stream. So one of the new things I'm doing has been something that I've had on my mind for many, many months. Involves me basically sometimes going out to other artist studios. But now that we've got this whole technology on YouTube sorted as well, it means I can invite artists from all around the world to take part in this with me. So this week I went to visit an amazing artist called Bex Gwerner. She is mainly a charcoal artist, but she does do a little bit of colour pencil and a little bit of pastel. And she does amazing animals. She does fantastic crops. Her vision, she's a photographer as well as an artist, so she envisions things before she takes her reference photos. And she had a custom built studio, built obviously, this year. She had it designed and built, and a lot of us in the art world had supreme studio envy. And anyway, I went down to stay with her this week, and we've done a video of Bex's story, how she became an artist, why she became an artist, what she's done to lead her on a journey to where she is now, and of course what's led her to having this amazing studio. And then we do a short studio tour. So I want to do that with lots of other artists, names that you know, possibly names that you don't know, maybe some of you guys. And I'll also be doing some interviews, some split screen interviews on the Q&A sessions with some artists. I've got Karen Hull lined up already. So hopefully we'll be able to get all those international artists on board, and you'll be able to pick their brains as well as mine. So we've got Pearls asked about the new Derwents, the new Derwent light fasts. I love them. I haven't had much play with them yet. I've tried them out solely on the drafting film. I've mixed them a little bit in with some of my polychromos and my Pablos on the Pastelmat, and they are definitely something that I am going to be using in with all of my other pencils. And I can see Frank's just come in from North Carolina, unless he's down in Florida at the moment. Good morning, Frank. I think it's about 7, 8 o'clock, maybe 8, 9 o'clock where you are, I'm not sure. But yeah, the Derwent Light Fast. There's been a little bit of a hoo-ha with one artist saying that they've labelled up some of the Lightfast ratings on the pencils. They don't line up with something in the charts, which I need to look at. But as far as application goes, I love them. I think they're going to speed up working on Pastelmat, because obviously polychromos are quite hard and translucent. That's why they need so many layers on the Pastelmat and the textured surfaces. If you start to bring in, like the Pablos are slightly softer, as are the luminants, but if you bring in something like the Derwents, they're very rich in pigment and slightly softer than the polychromos, so the two together work like heaven. And they've got 2 or 3 different blacks. So again, they've got like a midnight black, they've got a greenish black. They're going to be wonderful for building up those tonal values. And tonal values and colour are a couple of the things I want to do some more short videos on. So again, this month, I'm trying to free up a month of not doing a full-on long tutorial, because as some of you know, the last one sort of took me over the edge. So going to do some of these mini ones. So where I've done little videos on how to see the colours in white fur and how to see the colours in black fur, I'm going to do more of those. So I'm going to do chestnut, brown, mottled fur, but I'll be putting out, you know, a Q&A to see which ones you want. I'm just going to have a quick sip of my coffee. So yeah, Lightfast Derwents. I mean, I was kindly gifted the whole set. I'm going to be doing some spot giveaways on Patreon, so it's going to be sort of first to answer, first to, you know, or the best caption and things like that. So I have got about 20 Lightfast that have been gifted to me, and I might approach Derwent to see if they might sponsor a couple of our giveaways on there. So I might be able to sort of give away a few to, you know, people, and you can get a free pencil if you get in touch with Derwent. I know it's only one, but it gives you a chance to have a quick play. Anya, I cannot find a start point. It looks very difficult. Where to start, and can you give advice, please? Anya, I think maybe, do you mean where to start in general or just where to start on Patreon? I'll let you come back and just ask or just confirm which you mean from that, which will take a few seconds. Pearl, you're coming to the UK next week. Oh, you'll have to let us know whereabouts you're coming to, just in case our paths could cross. There could be a chance of that. I know hopefully I'm meeting up with another of you guys that are in the chat today at the end of the month, which I'm very excited about. Couple more of you joining. Hi everyone, those of you that have just joined now as well. You'll see the written chat on the right hand side. If you pop something in there just to let me know who's here today and whereabouts you're tuning in from, it just gives me a little bit of incentive, or idea for next time. Next time I'll probably set up an earlier one so that the guys in Australia and that can catch us, and then obviously one in the evening for those on the east coast of America to catch us as well. Yorkshire and Fleet in Hampshire, both a little out of my reign. We'll chat behind the scenes, Pearl, about that, about where you're going to be and what you're up to, just in case we can catch up. Anya, in general, okay. One thing I would say then, if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed and it's all difficult, that means usually that social media is winning. You're looking online, you're seeing everyone else, and you're seeing everything that they're posting, and you're thinking, well, where do I start? Obviously, if you've done a couple of projects, and it depends as well, feel free as well, Anya, just to say sort of what you want from your art. Do you just want this to be fun as a hobby? Do you want this to be a career down the line? Do you want to be doing portraits and commissions for people? But to be honest, to get started, it's about building your confidence, building up some skills, and then directing those skills in a style and doing, I was going to say themes, but doing pictures that inspire you. So finding images that inspire you, that you want to draw. So if it's animals, would you feel more inspired drawing your own animal to start with, or just finding a random image online that you go, wow, I really want to draw that? It's something that grabs you. But it is, I mean, when I came back to art, I bought my first pencils. I didn't know where to start. I bought Colour Pencil magazine. They do their monthly challenge, which is free to take part in. Pushed me way outside of my comfort zone. I think the first one that I drew with them was glass bottles filled with sand on pebble-dashed concrete. Never again, but it made me do it, and I didn't worry about the fact. It pushed me. And it's not a bad thing to push yourself to do something that's way outside of your comfort zone, because I think that way it got me over a lot of my fears quite early on. So yeah, that is a good place to start. That is with the Colour Pencil magazine. I'm not sure if Colour magazine are about to do it as well. I mean, I'd be quite happy to set up a challenge, so maybe make the next giveaway more of a challenge. But you've got a ton of reference photos from me already, obviously on Patreon as a source. So it depends where you want to take it. I started off, like I say, just drawing those bottles on concrete, and then I think I drew the sunset, the coloured sunset on the water. And then the next one I think was apples in a bowl, in a white ceramic bowl. So it wasn't necessarily me starting out drawing animals. I just started out challenging myself with colour pencils, with someone else's challenge and photo, really. But then that led me on to doing my first snow leopard, starting to do some commissions, and it sort of snowballed from there. But I think the problem is, like say, social media is we just see so much art out there, and everyone looks like they're doing amazingly. They might all have the same struggles behind the scene, but it's having that confidence to put it out there as well. I'm just going to ask my husband a quick question. Rob, how long do you think the delay is? Oh, I think he might be on his headphones so he can't even hear me. Okay. Right. Okay. So I'm going to take a drink, and then I should be able to tell from looking at the screen how long the delay is. So when I'm asking you a question, I think there's about a 30-second delay. A couple more people coming in. Please do say hello in the chat. And to say there is about a 30-second delay between me talking and the questions coming up, I think. And another thing I was going to say as well is I'm at home with the dogs today. They might bark. So I apologise. I might be able to hit the mute button. But if someone knocks the door, then yikes. There's 5 of them, but we're trying to keep them quiet, but they are rather excitable. Lag is about a minute. Thank you, hubby. Is there any subject matter that you would not do on Pastelmat? No. You can do anything on Pastelmat. You do landscapes, you can do shiny objects, you can do human portraits, you can do animals. Obviously, we've got the new paper coming out with Aliona Nicholson at Brush and Pencil. She's spent about 4 years designing this, and from what I gather from Aliona, this is going to rival Pastelmat. I'm not sure yet if it's just going to come in white or whether it's just going to come in white initially. Or whether there's going to be some tinted papers in future, but she is going to be sending me some samples this month. I can't wait to get hold of them. So where we've had some of those issues with Pastelmat quality and consistency, even this week at a workshop, I had 3 people working on supposedly the same shade of Pastelmat. Each one was different colour. So each one then does affect the amount of pigment and what colour pigment you put down and mix on there. But no, any subject on Pastelmat, any subject on any paper, to be honest, it's just that some lend themselves more readily. So, say suede mat lends itself more readily to creating fur. But I've seen like Gemma Geiling doing her elephants on there. I've seen someone this morning doing a bouquet or a basket, a woven basket with flowers. It looks beautiful, and if anything, it looks stunning because she's managed to flatten the texture of the suede mat to make it look shiny and hard, and then all the rest that she's not putting any pencil on stays soft, so the contrast is beautiful. Anya, short technique projects would be helpful for me if possible. I've got you, and that fits in as well with what I want to do over the next couple of months. Like you know, the big projects have been too much for me. I still will be doing obviously the big projects, but every couple of months, because the writing up of them just is another huge project on its own. I don't want to take away those written tutorials from you, so you will still be getting those. I think now for people joining, there is a huge golden blonde curly fur. So one of the other things I'm going to rein it in with now is doing short little projects. So a little, sort of 3-inch square of black shiny fur. Maybe we'll try that on 2 or 3 different papers. Say the eye projects are small, but if you want something smaller again, just let me know. If you've got specifics that you think, if you say to me, I want to learn how to create a smooth glassy shine on an area using Pastelmat, using suede mat, let me know, and then we can put together a short, or we can do that maybe even in a live stream, something that's achievable in an hour or up to 2 hours that can do in a live stream. That would be possible. So a small section of fur, an eye small enough we could do, and then you can ask questions as we go along as well. That's my plan for some little mini draw along ones, and then you can have your pencils at home as well. So you can be trying these out, and it's going to be like a little mini workshop. You can have your pencils and a little reference image and everything in advance on Patreon, and then I'll start, the drawing here and show you how I get going. And then I can ask you questions as we go along of like, you're all cut up. Basically pretty much like the live webinar workshops I do with the SAA, but not 4 hours and not in a room where I've got 30 odd people. It'll just be me at my drawing table, drawing along and obviously responding to the questions that you're asking. Sort of like, how did I do that? Why did I do that? Usually I explain as I go along, but it gives you that opportunity to ask as well. Hopefully that sounds good. Another sip. Any more questions coming in? If not, I'm going to have a quick sip of my coffee before it goes cold. Of my coffee there. It's quite funny this. I realised earlier we moved the camera down below the screen, and then I realised that oh no, there's a reason for having a camera up high. It sort of hides the double chin a little bit as well. So thank you, Anya. Very happy. I think it's a good idea. I think there's lots to say on there now. But it can be a bit overwhelming, some of the big projects that people don't know where to start. So I'm going to take it right back to grassroots, and we'll just start focusing on those smaller things and anything that you feel that I can offer you, because I don't know unless you ask. I don't, you know, I can guess at what's needed, but if I hear it from you, then I know it's needed, and I will create little projects for you. What kind of light do I like to work under? Warm or cool? Well, I work under daylight lamps. This is a really strange thing, and it's something I was talking to Bex in her studio about this week. They purposely built the studio north-facing so that there's not much natural daylight in there. So she relies on her daylight lamp. And I got 2 daylight lamps because my drawing table's quite big. Is something that I'm looking at. I mean, the thing of not using natural light means that you get consistency. So no matter what time of the year or no matter what time of the day, I know that flicking my daylight lamps on is going to give me the same consistent light that I was using on the last session on a project. Whereas if I've got natural daylight coming in, it can vary. It can be, like, say, warm some days, cool on other days. But yeah, I do recommend working with, sounds crazy, but artificial light. So I know a lot of people in the US use something called an OTT lamp, OTT lamp, which I think is lots of LEDs, whether they're daylight LEDs, I'm not sure. But I want to have a look at those and try one of those out, because mine are quite big. And with all the paraphernalia that I've got over me, and I should have brought that down to show you actually. I've actually got a new, oh, Daylight is the brand, Pearl. And it is a daylight. It simulates all of the rays that you get in a natural... I'll have to find the science on it, but it is called the Daylight Lamp Company. There's lots of information on their website. I will try and pop the link up as well for you. If my husband's listening, he might be able to go and get the link for the Daylight Lamp Company. But they do have a specific artists range as well within those, arts and crafters, because you can get round tube ones with magnifiers in as well. So if you need to see things a little bit more detailed. My eyes are deteriorating over time. I think I might need one of those soon. But I wouldn't use just a normal light bulb, because I think they give off quite a warm light, to be honest. It's not something I've ever looked at, because I've just chosen the daylight lamp bulbs, and I've stuck with them because they give me the closest to consistent natural light. Thank you, Frank, for mentioning about the eyes. I think, to be honest, we are looking at even smaller projects, so which is absolutely fine with me. So mixing and blending of colours, layering, maybe layering different brands of pencils to see how they react. So where I've done the layers, a little block of layers of polychromos on Pastelmat, maybe I'll do a couple more versions of those, mix in some of the new Derwent Light Fast to see how fast we can fill that tooth, and how many less layers we then need to achieve our finished effect. So a few little projects like that, and these are the key things. At workshops, I get my students to do the pressure tests and the layering tests, and I push them back to those all the way through the workshop. If they say, does it need to go darker, I say, look at the tonal values that you pushed it to on your little test strips. do I need to use this pressure or this pressure? Look at those little test strips. Keep going back to them. That's why you do them. And if you skip those out, it will reflect in your work and you'll get frustrated. It's a boring little thing, but it teaches you so much. Same as just getting 3 or 4 of your pencils. So say you get, I'm talking polychromos names. So say you get a dark indigo, get a Prussian blue, maybe a cream which has got a hint of yellow, and so if you imagine that touching the blue, it's going to slightly give you a greenish tone, and an ivory, and just repeat layers between that. It's, you know, your 2 blues, the cream and the ivory, and keep repeating, and just mix, and then see what happens if you put down an extra layer of cream in one go, or an extra layer of the Prussian blue. It's all about treating your paper, remember, like it's your palette. That's where you mix and blend your colours. You're not like a painter with paints who mixes it off to one side. Your palette is your support. So your Pastelmat, your sanded paper, your suede mat, even your drafting film. Drafting film less to a lesser degree because you can't do a lot of mixing and blending on there. Drafting film pretty much takes true colour. So you have to rethink how you apply your pencils there. Oh, some questions just come up about Duralar. Another quick drink. Okay. Sharpness of your pencils, is it as important on Pastelmat as on paper and Duralar? Okay, with Pastelmat, especially if I'm working on a large area, now the rule to this is different when I'm working on the small area of, say, eyes. Small area of eyes on Pastelmat, I'll use sharp pencils. I'm not going to be going in there with too many layers. So say my eyes are only about, I don't know, less than an inch round or square, I'll go in with sharp pencils because I want to be getting to the detail area quite quickly. I don't want the wide nib of the pencil to be spilling out and making it gives you quite a blurry effect. Now, if I'm working on a larger area, if you think about the surface area of a sharp pencil as opposed to a blunt pencil, there's more surface area on a blunt pencil. So the blunt pencil touching the Pastelmat is going to give you the pigment going down in a bigger area faster. So when I'm doing my initial underblocking stages, the my pencils are blunt. Flat blunt, if you've sharpened them, just use, I start to sharpen up. So once I've got a decent amount of colour blocking down, then the next time I'll come in with slightly sharper pencils. They're still going to be blunt at the end, just not flat blunt. They'll just be rounded, maybe. And then it's not until you start to get a nice build-up of the pigment, then you can start coming in with sharper pencils. And then my super sharp pencils are for all those real flicky, fine fur details and texture, fur texture near the end. And what happens is you've got a layer of pigment down, the super sharpness cuts through it, and that creates your texture. And remember, sharp pencil, but you've preserved, say you're using a pressure 3 all the way through for those layers, you then preserve pressure 4 to 10. So if you feel like your pencil's not going down near the end in those sharper layers, or you need it, you know, with the sharper pencil, press a little harder. Remember, if you're using Pastelmat textured papers, it's all about the feel as well as the what you can see. So you can press harder in the final layers because you don't need to keep preserving the too. So you're not going to be putting any more pigment down there once you've got those final details in. Tanique or Tanika? I'm going to say both, then I know that I hopefully have pronounced it correctly. Managed to get into the chart first time I tried, and you're in the Netherlands. Thank you, Tanique. And hopefully I'm coming out to the Netherlands to teach in April. I think it's the first weekend of April next year. I'll be out at a place called, now I might pronounce this wrong, Enschede. It's literally right on the east of the Netherlands on the border with Germany, I think. I need to check the map again. But yeah, I'll be out there teaching, hopefully a 2-day workshop. Short instruction, laying with 4 pencils on different paper, for example. Yeah, I think that's a good one, Anya. And I think as well, if we get into some colour theory, so basically it's really easy for people to go, oh, I'm going to colour match that. This is the bad thing. They're going to have a colour swatches done of your pencils. So say you've got 5 brown pencils and you colour swatch those onto the same shade of paper that you're using for a drawing. Now it's really easy to go in to a photo program or a photo picker, colour picker, or even to put your swatch up against the photo and go, that brown matches that exactly, so I'm just going to use that brown in that area. That's where it starts to become flat. And someone asked me the other day why, when I'm drawing, say, the eye, like I released the German Shepherd eye tutorial, made it public this week, and someone asked, why do you put down... Excuse me, that's the dogs. That'll be little Sherlock having a bit of a barking session at something in the garden, so I apologise. He will now be told off by his dad. Okay. So, going back to what I was saying about mixing colours and just, if you... Yeah, they were asking me about the German Shepherd eye tutorial. So why did I put down the white, and then why did I go over it with a blue, and why did I then go over it with a grey and then a tinge of something else? It's the blending and mixing does lots of things. One, you're blending and mixing colour to make it not look flat. If I only put white in an area and then blue next to it and then orange next to it, it's like colour by numbers. You get a flat image. It gives the impression of a 3D subject, but it's a flat image. It's the mixing and blending, fills the tooth of the paper, gets rid of that graininess, builds up a wonderful rich texture, but at the same time it builds your tonal values and it mixes colour. So you mix your colour and the transitions become really smooth from your darkest shade up through lots of beautiful colours to your lightest highlight. That is why we do all of these layers, and that's why we layer light over dark over light over dark. But so yeah, we'll look at doing some of those blending and mixing projects, and I'll just maybe do a few sessions, a couple of sessions each week. Do you know what I mean? Just say this week we'll focus on mixing browns but not using brown in there, and seeing what's possible. So that way, if you've got missing pencils in your supplies, then we'll see if we can achieve those colours by mixing and blending. That's what it's all about. Is your final layer on Pastelmat completely smooth and shiny and slippery with every valley filled completely, so that when you are running your pencil over it you no longer hear the scratching? Yes, Pearl. You feel the change, you hear the change, and you see the change. It's mostly about feel. When students are on the workshop, they keep saying, have I finished this bit yet? Have I finished this bit yet? Have I finished? And I go, no, you're about halfway, but then all of a sudden, on their own, they'll go, oh, and a little light bulb will go off, and it feels buttery. It feels thick and smooth, and that's when you know you can sharpen up and cut through, because you'll still feel your sharp pencils will still cut through and catch that grip underneath, but it does feel slippery and smooth. And ignore the shine. A lot of people that use Prismacolors are used to seeing like a wax bloom or a wax shine, and if you're using polychromos you'll get an oil shine. That's just the oils. And again, I think I've hit that myth on the head before, that there is no such thing as an oil pencil or a wax pencil. All pencils have got wax and oil in. It's just a proportion that's in the mix, in the binder. So say you're using polychromos on Pastelmat, you will get to a point where it is shine, but that is the oil shining. It doesn't mean that, oh, you filled your tooth. It's just the oil build-up. If you do feel like you've filled your tooth and no matter how much pressure you use, you can't get any more grip, use something like OMS or something like that just to dissolve your solvent. Not a problem, but you shouldn't get that. And that's the thing with a lot of people. They think they finished their work, they're frustrated, and I just zoom in on their work online and I can see the grip of the paper, the tooth of the paper, which means they just need lots more layers. And if you think that you've done enough layers, do 2 or 3 more. That's what makes the difference. If you push on through, it really does make a huge thing like that. I think the smaller projects are key to the bigger picture. And also, what I might do is just focus on small shapes. I see lots of, I draw fur in triangles, lots of triangles a lot of the time. So the shadows become triangles. So we might just focus on not looking at it as fur whatsoever. We'll just zoom in again, look at shapes. Then we want to look at tonal values as well, and push in your tonal values. Because that's another good thing with textured papers. You can push your tonal value way beyond what you want and then still pull it back again. That's not a problem at all. If you do that 3 pencil layer thing, going black, pale, mid-grey, white, black, grey, white, black, grey, white, do that 60 times on your paper. You can still put white over the top of that black and the grey. You can still work from black to white confidently at that light pressure. So erasing, how to and with what? I don't use, well, it depends what you're using. If you're on Pastelmat, I never use an eraser. You can use a putty eraser. I mean, I mainly work on the darker colours, which take more pigment anyway. I usually correct, as long as it's inside your outside line, if you know what I mean. So you've got your outside line of the dog. As long as your mistakes are inside the outside line, I correct with the next layer of pencil. So say I've made my highlight too big, I'll just go in and correct it on my next dark to light layer. So I'll correct it with my dark, almost like doing it in negative. I'll correct the shape, and then I'll blend transitions with my mid-tone colours, and then put my highlight back over the top, and then I'll push the highlight into the shadow and the shadow back into the highlight. I think all of these little small techniques that I use, and I've sort of given names and descriptions to as I've used them in the bigger videos, I need to take note, and those little ones, maybe explain those 2 or 3 times in little short snippet videos. So erasing, if you do need to erase then, if it's outside of the area, my first initial thing would be either a really good putty rubber, because there are some rubbish ones. I've got the brand of a couple upstairs that I've been recommended recently from a graphite artist who's been using them for, I don't know, 25 years, and he only uses one brand, and I did buy one off him. It might have been Caran d'Ache, I will double check the exact one. So you can lift off with putty rubber, but you only dab, you never rub, because if you rub, all you're doing is bit of theory then. Okay, so your Pastelmat and any textured paper, any paper really, but your Pastelmat in particular, think about your paper as being mountains and valleys. So your mountains, that's when you add pigment, it's that tip of the mountain that shows. That's the tooth of the paper. That's where your pigment catches, on the top of the mountain. The valleys are the areas where the pigment doesn't initially catch, so that stays the same colour as your paper. So if you're working on brown, you'll add pigment, and the top of the mountains will get some pigment on it, the valley will stay brown. And the light layers enable us to keep building up and filling those valleys gradually without crushing the mountains. That's the whole thing of doing the pressure test. That's why I insist on you all doing the pressure test. So that way, by preserving your mountains, you preserve the grip and the tooth for all of the layers and details that you need later on in the piece. Rushing too fast, too heavy-handed, too sharp a pencil, you can crush those mountains, and it will give you less layers, less chance to mix and blend, less chance to get your tonal values smoothing out into your highlights. Lots of frustration. And I've gone completely off plan. Erasing, that was it. So if you use an eraser, you're going to go in, and one, there's a chance of pushing the pigment down into those valleys harder. 2, there's a chance of just damaging those mountain tips. So what I would do, if it doesn't work lifting with a putty rubber, is use something like Scotch Magic tape. I can use Framer's tape, any low-tack tape, but Scotch Magic tape, you can literally snip a piece, hold it over where your blemish is. If it's a big blemish, just rub it with your finger. Don't put the whole piece of tape down, just hover it over the area, use your finger. If it's a tiny little bit that you need to lift off, or it's inside your drawing, you just want to lift a little bit off. Say you put too much black pigment down, and even going in with a light colour to try and correct it means it's going to get a muddy mess. That's when you'd lift off some of the pigment. So again, get a little piece of your Scotch Magic tape, hold it over that blemish and get your stylus or a sharp pencil, one of your colour pencils, but preferably a stylus, and gently rub it just on the blemish and then lift away, and it will lift pigment off. If you need to do it again, just hover your piece. Maybe this can be a little topic that I do in a tiny little video. I'll add some blemishes to some different colours of Pastelmat, and we'll see the best methods of lifting them off. So putty rubber might work better on, say, a white paper. Your darker papers, it might be okay just to go in with Scotch Magic tape. We can try it and see and improve it because we videoed it and we've done it. That's the best thing, I think, to do it. And of course, if you end up with a really bad mess outside of your outside line, pan pastels to the rescue. But no, you can pop in a background, pop in a tonal background. If you want to keep the background the same colour, I know a couple of times early on in my career I sort of messed up the outside area on anthracite Pastelmat. I just found either a Payne's Grey or my Cold Grey 6, I think it was, closely matched that piece of Pastelmat. So I literally just blended some of that over the area and then used a stiff stubble brush and just literally brushed it all in and smoothed it all out. And that can work as well. Pearl, that's great. Keep the questions coming. It's absolutely fine. That's what this is for. And I'm hoping I'm giving you the right answers and it all makes sense. Okay, frisket. If you put frisket over your finished work because you decide to put in a background, when you remove the frisket, will it not pull off pigment? It shouldn't, and it depends what pigment you're talking about. If it's colour pencil, the best thing to do is for me to try this. I usually decide that I'm doing a background about 2/3 to 3/4 or even halfway through a piece. So I've never took a piece to completion because, as well, if you decide to put in a background when you've drawn a dog, so say my Aussie dog had loads of beautiful flicky fur hair as well, so it wasn't a fixed outline. So if I wanted to put in a background right at the end and I'd drawn all of the dog, it doesn't matter if I put all of that background in, I would still have had to gone in and worked all of those edges out into the background itself. I would still have had to flick all of those out. So as long as you put it down, it's very, very low tack. If you put it down very lightly and you consciously do not lean on it, so you put your background in, maybe turn it upside down to put your background in so you're not resting on it. Maybe use like a marl stick as well, so that lifts your hand away from it. But as long as you're not pressing down, but even then, you shouldn't be pressing down so much so that it's going to lift too much pigment off. It'll be a very minimal amount, but it is something to be conscious of. Frisket will help. It's more beneficial to put it down to mask your area if you feel like you're going to make a mess. The other options, yeah, no, I wouldn't do that actually. I was just saying you could just cut out, rather than using frisket over your finished area, you could just cut out the image, say the copier paper image to the same size, and lay that down and just tape it in place around the edges, and that'll cover the area without it having any stick the other side. That is an option, but the frisket is a better option than, if you are a messy worker, of risking pigment coming down. But to be honest, you should be able to put that background down without needing the frisket if you're careful. Brown doggy and Bocker effect. Yes, Pearl Shot. The golden retriever that I just did, I put down. Oh, the brown doggy. Oh, now are we talking mocha pup? Mocha pup with the blue bubble background. I put the background in, months after I'd finished mocha pup, because I just felt like I added a background in. So again, that was before I'd bought frisket. So I just put the background in. It didn't, that's pan pastel, it didn't mess up the dog itself because I was careful with the application, and then I just flicked mocha pup's fur back out into the background, so you didn't need it. I would mainly use frisket for preserving, like I used it on the golden retriever right at the beginning, because I wanted to show how you could use it if you're a mucky pup worker, to put your background in first and make sure then you've got nothing spilling into your main subject. Yes, mocha pup, yeah. Yeah, no frisket needed there. So you could have turned the image upside down, because it wasn't like you're depicting a forest or scenery, anything like that, that needed to be the right way up anyway. It was just a mottled background. So yeah. Okay. You can see we've got about a dozen of us here. If anybody else has got any other questions, but Pearl, please do keep the questions coming if you've got any more. It's all very quiet in the room here. Touch wood, I haven't spoke too soon. Sherlock's on house arrest. I can see Rob's on his laptop listening in, and Sherlock's on the back of the sofa. Terrified to use pan pastels. Does the Pastelmat not chew up your pan pastel sponges? Okay, yeah, they can, Pearl. I've actually got here, the artwork has now changed on this. So this, and again, until this catches up, I can't see if this is going to capture all of the image on the screen. So anyway, this is the new set of pan pastels. These aren't going to be for backgrounds. These are going to be for the underpainting of the your subjects. So Bernadette at Pan Pastel, she knows that there is a problem using Pastelmat and the real sanded papers, using the soft tool sponges, as in the ones that come on the knives. They're very thin. If you slide them around, they do rip and tear quite easily. So what I tend to do is I use some of the bigger sponges, and again, I use Pan Pastel sponges, but I also have some very cheap makeup sponges that I will sometimes bring in just from a little pound shop, and I will use those to get my big first layers of application down. And that means that then when you come in to use your soft tool knives, you can move them about a little bit more, because you've filled some of the tooth, you've softened up some of those mountains, you've softened it, so they're not going to tear at your sponges quite as much. I have bought some new makeup sponges on, they're like big oval sponges on handles, because I've seen other pastel artists using them, and they're quite cheap for a set in comparison to the price of the soft tools. So I'm yet to try those out. I need to try those out on them, and I know a couple of other artists. I think Deb Stanley's tried them out. Maybe Chris Art, I'm not sure. There's a couple of others, but I'm going to give those a go, because I'm thinking, well, I'll do anything, whatever's needed, and use whatever's needed to get the application going down the best, probably the quickest, smoothest, and if I can reuse them, even better. But yeah, Pan Pastels, they are wonderful, absolutely. They've saved me so many times, and they also help soften and blend my pencils when I want to create different textures of fur, so soft fluffy fur like a doodle and things like that. But yeah, you do dab with the sponges. I tend, if you've watched my videos, I'm not sliding, even my big sponges, I don't slide the pigment about. I'm placing it down. And if you're using Pastelmat, Colourfix Smooth, they're all designed to hold and grip pastel. So there shouldn't be much dust, and if you press, all you're doing is placing and pressing those pan pastels down, you're not causing any friction on those sponges. I've not used brushes, apart from I've used a brush, say on like a bokeh effect, I might use it just one sweep around the outside to soften the outline. Brushes don't pick up pan pastel or place it down very well. If you want to do something quite light, very light in texture, then yeah, use a brush, because you're not going to be picking up much pigment and you're not going to be transferring much pigment. It's not going to go down as much, so it'll create a different soft look. So there are a use for brushes, and also with brushes you've got that risk of flicking the dust up into the air. So it's trial and error. That's how I do things. I try trial and error. But it is all about placing and dabbing it down, rather than like, traditional pastels. Before I found pan pastels, the pastels, I used to come away covered in muck. I would have breathed all the dust in. I knew all the dust was in my nostrils, and so I knew it gone on my down on my into my chest, into my lungs. Even though I wore a mask, I'd wear the mask and then I'd get all hot and sweaty and itchy, and it wasn't pleasant using normal soft pastels, and I'd never go back to them, even though I see some amazing work done. And even recently I did a pastel workshop with Vic Bearcroft, which I loved. It was on velour, but we had to keep rubbing that pastel to get it into the loop of the velour, and it gives a great effect, but I came away mucky. My surface area was mucky. I was mucky. My nose was mucky. I like my cleanness of pencils, and my pan pastels are clean. Unless I drop one by mistake, then they are really clean and they fit in with the colour pencil work so much better. Frank, haven't you used pan pastels using the spot application? Does that fill the valleys because of the pressure of the fineness of the material? Yes, Frank. They really are a really fine powder, and they're just pressed into those pans. They're compressed into the pans at pressure. So it's not even like eyeshadow or anything that is quite powdery. These are so compressed, literally 1 or 2 sweeps, press it in, and it is so fine. That's what it's designed for. And the paper companies have worked with Pan Pastel to create these surfaces that grip them. And I could pick up the golden retriever that's got a ton of Pan Pastel on it. I could flick the back, I could shake it upside down. I'm not going to see hardly any pigment come off it. It just grips it. And I didn't rub any of that pigment in. I dabbed it and just smoothed it and pressed it in. I didn't rub any of it in. When in the UK next week, where is the best place for me to buy Pastelmat? It is so expensive having it sent to South Africa. Okay, Pearl, if you have got an address that you can get some sent to, that you're going to be staying at, that is the best way. It's not available off the shelf, as far as I know, except in maybe some small retailers. So there's the SAA, which you can call in. If depends how you're travelling from Hampshire up to Yorkshire, but Newark is just off the M1 as you travel up near Nottingham. They do have a shop. You can call in there. I think Jackson's have 2 shops, but one is near me, and I think the other is London Way. I'm not sure. Again, they do hold stock. But the best thing is if you can order from somewhere like Great Art, SAA will price match, or anywhere that's got a sale on, and get it sent to an address. That is the best way of doing it. I don't know of many stores that actually hold it. Hi Tara in Florida. Hope you've got some beautiful weather in Florida. We've just been. I'm gonna put this video out on playback as well. It'll go out. Obviously, the link is up on Patreon anyway, so it will go out for everyone to see. Obviously, this is the first of many. I'm hoping you're finding it of benefit, even if you're not asking questions. I hope just me explaining some things and answering other questions is you're finding it useful. Now that I'm doing it and everything is working technically, I am so relieved, and we'll definitely be doing this again. Phew. But yeah, hopefully, again, Pearl, we'll have a quick chat behind the scenes about that if you haven't got an address or anything, see if there's anything we can sort out. But what I tend to do is look to see if, and there is another option coming up soon for Pastelmat, and I will check in with her to see if she is stocking it yet, but it might work out better for you in South Africa in future. Maybe a group of you could get together, because I think Leslie Martin's in South Africa as well, and there's a few others. You might be able to get a bulk lot of Pastelmat sent to one person there and then dispense it out between you. But Emma Kerridge at the Coloured Pencil Shop is working with Claire Fontaine here in the UK, and she is going to be stocking Pastelmat. So obviously she posts her pencils and papers all over the world. Great service and a really good price. So she is going to be a future option as well for those of you overseas. Interesting. Suede Matt, want to learn more? I have a video on that. cat, clumpy fur cat, with a little cat looking up in the air. That one is all on suede mats. I've got a fox that I'm working on at the moment, which I can video. I was actually thinking this week I can do some video of me working on that one to show how I mix and blend colours, and also to show that how easy it is to create those flicks of fur out into the background, because you don't need to work it 2 or 3 times on suede mat. You literally flick it out with a sharpish pencil. But again, it's like Marmite. You love it or hate it. You can put a layer of pigment down or layers of pigment down, go to bed, get up the next morning and it's all vanished on suede mat. That is a problem. It's disheartening really, but you just know that you have to keep repeating it, and it might do it to you 2 or 3 times. So, but again, the colours that it comes in is beautiful. I want to try and get hold of some white. My supplier doesn't stock white, but I think Kathy Settle, who's in our artist group on Facebook, the private group, Kathy's in there. She's got an Etsy shop, so you can buy direct from Kathy or go to a framers and see if they've got any offcuts that you can have for free, because they're not going to reuse the offcuts, but give them some names as well if they've not heard of it. Just say it's Arcadia, Crescent. Those are the 2 main suede mat board manufacturers. So a framing shop should stock Arcadia, and they should stock Crescent. So they should be able to look on their catalogues and get some samples in for you. Tara, I'm a new artist, no schooling, just watching YouTube videos. What should I focus on to get better with my colour pencil drawing? Depending, as with all pencil drawings, all art really, practice doesn't make perfect, but practice, 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 perseverance, patience, all the P's. It depends what you feel that you're struggling on. We're our own worst critics, and I feel I'm struggling with my work all the time. That's because we push ourselves to improve, and I know that if I get something wrong in one drawing, I might have got it wrong, but I've learned then for the next one to do it slightly differently. Usually by going wrong, that's when you learn how to put something right. So the next time you might not make that same mistake, but you will make possibly other mistakes, but it will lead on to you improving. It is about practice though. It's about, we've said this earlier on before you joined us, I think, Tara. It's about not pushing things too far too quickly. It's not about looking and being overwhelmed by what's on social media and seeing that it's an amazing masterpiece and thinking you must be creating that. You get there in stages and steps, and we all work at a different pace, and we all develop at a different pace, and it depends. One artist on there that might start at the same time as you might only have 2 hours a week where you focus on drawing. They might have every single day. They've got nothing else to do, so they might be there 5 or 6 days a week, 6 or 7 hours a day. So their journey, they're going to appear to jump ahead so much quicker, even though they started at the same time. But that's because drawing and practice time basically means that you're learning more and more as you go along. So, and we were talking as well about, I'm going to do I've got the eye projects already on here on Patreon that are small and good. That's what I tell people to start on. But we're going to be doing lots of little mini focus videos, so just little short projects. And also on here, now that I've got all this technology set up to stream on YouTube and I can do it exclusive for you guys on Patreon, we're going to be doing some draw along sessions. So we'll say, okay, next week we're going to focus on that black shiny fur. I'll give you your reference photo. I'll give you your pencil selection colours, and then we'll set a time, and then I will draw and demonstrate whilst you can watch and ask questions and try it at the same time. And that's the closest we can get to doing a workshop. I'm not in the room with you to see what you're doing or how much pressure, but I think that way you'll just gain confidence. So again, you can request that, you want to learn this colour or that texture or this, and I'll be guided by you as well. And think things like that will help. And also, if you can find any workshops in your area, it doesn't have to be colour pencil. If you're struggling with colour, texture, composition, any art workshop will help with those, but there may be colour pencil workshops out there close to you. Yeah, good idea, Frank, as well. If you don't ask, you don't get. I ask a lot. I sometimes hold back on asking so that then I can save up and ask for something big. I've got a workshop coming up for Alan Woolett soon, and the paper he uses is very expensive. So I've got a favour in hand with a couple of paper manufacturers or paper suppliers, so I might actually say to them, would they like to sponsor Alan's workshop, and maybe we can get all the paper supplied for the students. So but yeah, if you don't ask, you don't get. I've messaged a lot of places. I've been sent, like, the Xerox Never Tear paper, lots of different acetates to try, different drafting films. Obviously, yeah, okay, I'm a known name with a lot of the companies now, so they want me to try products. But even starting out, some of these places I contact, they don't know who I am because I'm just a random person asking for some of their paper. It's not necessarily art paper, but it's paper that I want to try. So just ask them. All they can do is say no, but hopefully. I mean, even the other week, I asked for a sample of this textured board, thinking I'm going to get sent like a little piece. I've been sent an A1 size sheet, and I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to do with this? But it's brilliant. I didn't expect that size sample, but it's fantastic. So, Rob, you're doing a great job with Sherlock and the gang. Will the workshop be when I'm around, Frank? Yeah, we'll try and time things. I'm going to try and do different times. Oh, when you're here, workshop, Frank, when you're in the country. I think you just miss it. My next workshop in the UK, physical workshop, is first week of September before I come out to America. So I'm just giggling at the comments between my husband and Frank. But the online workshops, we're going to do some little mini workshops just like this webinar. I'll put out a poll on Patreon saying, do people prefer weekends or weekdays? And then, like I say, we'll try and do one session early in the morning here so that those in America, in Australia, New Zealand and in the Far East can join in, and Europe. And then we'll do another one. I'll do one here at, say, I don't know, 4 o'clock in the afternoon or something, my time. And that should mean that it's going to be like at least 7, 8 a.m. over in America, but we'll make sure we do it that the most people can take, the opportunity. Of course, it'll be available on playback, but you won't be able to ask questions live. So, just looking at Pearl's answer. Found a few places, 2 days got some pasta in a few colours and sizes. It's frightfully expensive, more so than bringing it in. I needed to supply my students too. I think, yeah, you need to find a distributor there that's you can work with you, Pearl. If you're teaching students, see if you can get in touch with them. Just get in touch with the supplier there in South Africa, and see if they will do you a bulk discount, because you're supplying students. You're encouraging, the students are then going to go on and buy from them as well, so it's in their best interest. See if they'll sponsor you for 6 months or a year and supply you. That's the best answer, best thing to do. Even if they only give you a cost price, it's helping them because you can tell, spread the good name of their company, get your students to buy from them in future, and also you're getting it at a cost price. Faber-Castell. I'm an ambassador for Faber-Castell here in Europe. Do they give me pencils? No. Do they give the guys, the ambassadors in America, pencils? Yes, for all of their workshops. Do they give their ambassadors in Malaysia pencils? Yes, for all of their workshops. They even pay for their workshops. Here, Faber-Castell, even though they're a European company, and I work with the CEO of the UK distributor, I get them at cost price, so I get them at trade price. They don't give them to me, so they don't fully sponsor my workshops, but I appreciate that they work with me. They provide me with opportunities to be out there in public representing them, demonstrating their products, and of course I get them at cost price, so I can then knock that onto my students. So the students on my workshops only pay cost price for the pencils. So as far as I'm concerned, that's win-win. Yes, Pearl, South Africa, why not? I'll go anywhere. As long as it's okay with Rob. That's the only thing we have to work around. We've got 5 dogs. Rob works shifts. And bless him, we're just looking at next year's dates for workshops, and I'm just going to go ahead and have to book them all. Because at the moment I'm just having to put things on hold, saying, sorry, I can't give you a date for that, can't give you a date for that. But American, I'm doing the UK workshops next year, I'm doing hopefully Netherlands in April, the Canary Islands either in March or next September sometime, America and Canada in June, and then a few others in between. And the workshops next year are all going to change as well. There's going to be some 1 days, some 2 days, 3 days, some where you can bring your own reference photos, some that are going to be 5 days long. They're going to be, it's exciting next year. We're really going to be focusing on lots next year. Come to Florida. Tara, I looked at Florida. There are a couple of venues there. At the moment, I need, let's say, someone to coordinate it in that area and a venue. But at the moment, for that area, I'm looking at North Carolina for next year. I've got a couple of venues there, one of which is North Carolina Zoo, where I've got not only the venue, we've got access to photographing the animals, and we've got accommodation at the zoo as well. I've also got a wonderful person in North Carolina who I've got full confidence in for helping me coordinate the workshop there. But Florida is the other option, but I know that coming out in June, hopefully I would avoid the start of any hurricanes like the one that chased me out of South Carolina last time I was in the US. But it's all about having someone literally just being on the ground in an area, sorting out the venue, helping out, just checking things out for me, so that I can then, I'll take all the bookings, I handle everything else, but it's just having someone there. Like in Kansas City, I've got an amazing lady who's a very good friend who's just handled all of that for me, and I do everything else. So in USA in June, I'll be there too. Where and when, that's to be decided, Pearl. Like I said, possibly North Carolina, possibly Seattle, possibly up to Canada, but then we're looking as well, I'm talking with a few other people, sort of Pennsylvania area. I've been offered quite a few different locations venue-wise. I'm quite busy the next month or so, so hopefully August, September time, possibly September when I'm out in the US, that is when I can focus and pin down the dates and locations for definite for next June. Tara, is that the zoo in North Carolina? I thought it was Greenboro for some reason, unless it is Ashboro, I'm not sure. I know my friend there is the official photographer for the zoo as well, and she's been helping me set that one up. But again, it might just be, it's going to be at another venue. The one in Kansas City is at a hotel at the airport, so it means that people can fly in, literally straight into the workshop and then get out again. But we've also got deals on the accommodation for the rooms, so it's cheap for everyone. And also we've got a great hostess there that's going to sort out us going for dinner and things like that if we want to. So I'm trying to make it as easy as possible, because I appreciate America is huge and you all need to travel for the workshops. It's Ashboro. I thought it was somewhere there. I knew it was a borough at the end of it. There is a Greenboro or Greensboro nearby, I think, isn't there? So, right, you guys, let's have a look. The doggies have been very, very good. So I think we will look at wrapping this up for now. Just want to say thank you to everybody that's tuned in, everyone who's helped out in the chats, just feedback on the fact that you can see me, you can hear me, and quite strangely, hubby's just passed me a note just now saying start wrapping up, and he doesn't realise because of the lag that I already have. Tara, pop me a message on Patreon or an email and we will chat, because that's what I need to do. But okay, so a huge thank you to everyone. Now that this has happened, I'm going to schedule some in without being so stressed about the next ones over the next month. And we'll set up some times and dates and in the group about sort of little mini subjects to cover for the next month or so for all the little videos. Okay, so I just need to figure out in a second how to stop the video. But that is it for today. So thank you very much for watching. And if you're here and you haven't subscribed to my YouTube, just click the button before you go. All right. Thanks, everyone. bye bye for now.